what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this on. This would be
Okay.
neat talking, you know, because I'll just lay it out there for you.
All right.
See.
On the Midwest Sound Countdown, we have the Wild Man, Jerry Reed.
The Wild Child.
We're going to talk about a lot of things. Let's first of all, let's talk about this new album you have out.
Boy, I really want to, Walter. I really want to.
The Man with the
Yeah.
Golden Thumb. Is that the name of it?
Yes, it is. Walt, and I am so proud of the album. I really am proud of the album, and for a lot of reasons. And me being the least of them, if you want to know the truth. And I think never before in my career or in my life have I been able to appreciate all the ingredients that go into an album. So talk about it, yeah. I'd love to talk.
We were
about
talking about a producer. Now, before you have produced yourself, now you have a producer and a familiar name.
it. Well, you're not kidding. Walter, and you know, it makes so much. It makes so much all the difference in the world if you have the right kind of producer, and by that I mean a guy like a Rick Hall, the gentleman we're talking about now,
Right.
Muscle Shoals, who's produced records for a quarter of a century. And I had been doing pictures and television, and I'm trying to run a band. I'm trying to do concerts. I'm trying to run my publishing company, and I'm trying to produce my own records. And you just can't do it. So,
Not when there's talent available like Rick Hall.
well, the point is, there's so many arenas out there, and your eyes get sometimes too big, you know, and you overload the clock, and I think I suffered from the overcare syndrome. I care so much about everything I do that I wanted to be in close contact, let's say, with the work, involved in picking the musicians, involved in picking material, involved in setting a studio time, making sure that the pickers don't come there already wasted and tired.
That all takes time.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and so consequently my records suffered, and thank God that Jerry Bradley, who runs the RCA division down in Nashville, had enough sense to ask of Rick Hall if he would like to produce Reed. And Rick was sitting ready, apparently, for somebody like a Reed, because the association, just through this one album and a few sides that we did beyond the album, has just been such an experience, I think, for both of us.
What are some of your other favorite songs on that album?
Oh, I heard the album the first time about 2 weeks ago in Dallas, 3 weeks ago now in Dallas. Now, we started way back in December sometime, starting the album, and Rick has really knocked his brains out. And the album is full of songs that I like, and I find that when I'm not involved in producing, how quickly I forget. So I know that what I'm doing is right, to have a Rick Hall really overseeing things and making sure things are tied up and finished and the package is presented to RCA, because when I heard the album, there were so many things I'd forgotten. Boy, like Muddy Water, Love is Muddy Water, just knocked my brains out. The Worst You Ever Gave Me is the best I ever had, and Stray Dogs and Stray Women. The song is just full of really neat songs and neat thoughts.
What is that thing about?
She got the gold mine, I got the shaft, which is just one of my all-time favorite songs. When I heard it the first time, it was done. You remember Robert Lund, the Talking Blues Boy on the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah.
It was kind of done in that vein, and I just took it and put it into my bag is what I did, and I just had a lot of fun with it. But the record itself, the cut on the album just turned out so tremendous, and it's so much fun to do in person. Boy, in person, it's just so much fun.
Makes for a live
Sure
stage.
it does. Sure it does.
We might give everybody a little background on Rick Hall. He was responsible for Mac Davis's Baby Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me. He was responsible for Sammy Joe Cole's first hit song, Tell Me a Lie.
And he's produced Marie Osmond. We were just in L.A., and he's out there now. People are they're always knocking at Rick's door. They're always there beating on his door because and I'll tell you why, because I've been in this business a long time, and you know, we were talking earlier, and I think now I know how to evaluate a producer, and Rick's secret is his tremendous talent, but his extreme interest and desire in scoring. He wants to score. He won't come out of that studio unless he's made a product that is street good. You understand what I'm saying? He doesn't care. He doesn't care particularly what the musicians in the studio think. He could care less, because his mind is out in the street, and he plays really hard. He's the difference in the, let's say, the Lynn Swans or the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the let's pick somebody in a different occupation. Well, he would be their equivalent. He concentrates that much harder. I think.
Quite a producer.
Oh, an excellent producer.
Let's go back a little bit to Jerry Hubbard in Atlanta, Georgia, in the mill.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
I remember a Jerry Hubbard that couldn't decide whether he wanted to work in the mill or he wanted to go on the road with Ernest Tubb.
Well, let me tell you what happened now. See, I had a policeman friend, Walter, and quite contrary to or in reverse of the character that I take up on the stage and on film, I've always been a shy kind of dude, and I think that, well, most people who portray that really are, nobody can be that way all the time. That's a tool, I guess, or it's a little defense you put up. But this policeman, I kept telling him, I said, boy, I tell you, I'd really like to go up and meet Bill Lowry, who was a DJ in Atlanta at WGST, and he had an Uncle Eb Brown show every Saturday morning, and he'd just gotten into getting his feet wet in the publishing business, and I thought, boy, if I could meet that man, I might could get in the business, and I'm 16 years old. And so one morning, he just comes and snatches me out of bed on Saturday, and he says, come on. I said, well, you're taking me to jail. What have I done? All I did was sleep all night. Wait a minute, I was here. I got mother to prove it. Wait. He said, no, we're going to see Uncle Eb. So we went up to WGST, and I met Bill Lowry. And at the time, Bill was dear friends with Ken Nelson, who was A&R director with Capitol. Mm-hmm. And so Roy made me sing him some songs, this policeman friend of mine, and Bill said, well, keep writing songs and bring them back to me, and shoot, you don't know, anything can happen. So I did. Boy, it got me really excited, so I started writing dumb songs and anything I could think of. You know, a 16-year-old kid, how they think anyway. So eventually, Bill got to talking to Ken Nelson, and he got me on Capitol Records when I was 17, and he said, we're going to wait till you're 18 to record you because you're too young. And then when we went in the studio, he said, you're probably still too young, but I'm going to record you anyway. And then what followed was, when I got on Capitol Records, I was still in school, 17 years old. So when my first record came out, I left school and went on the road with the Ernest Tubb Show for 30 days with my new record, see, because you could buy me cheap.
And you could sell the record.
So I knew I always knew what I wanted to do anyway. I always really knew. That's hard for, I guess, people to believe, and it sounds kind of trite maybe, but I always knew. And, of course, after the 30 days was over, you know, what about old Jerry Reed? You know, Jerry who? What does he do? And so I figured, well, maybe I better go back and finish school. Well, I went to back to school 4 different times, and I'd always quit to go back to picking somewhere. Finally, my principal set me down. He said, Jerry, I can't let you back in school anymore because you know what? You and I both know what you do, don't you? And I said, yes, sir. So I went to work at the Exposition Cotton Mill and bought me a D28 Martin guitar. But, you know, I never was good working at jobs because I left one day and I went to do a show that Bill had in Decatur, Alabama, and 2 days later I come back and my boss don't understand it. He says, where have you been? And how did I explain to him I've been playing the guitar? He said, now you're going to have to make up your mind, boy.
Again,
you want in the cotton mill business, you're gonna try to make your living playing that guitar, and that was the razor edge that cut it clean for me. And I said, well, you've said it, and I'm gonna make my living playing this guitar because that's all I care about. And so I went into nightclubs then, and tried the best way I could between night school and nightclubs to finish my education. So I finally finished it in the Army.
In the Army?
Yeah, I finally finished my high school in the Army. Yeah, but I still wouldn't change anything, Walter, because I never wanted to do anything else, and I don't regret any moves I ever made.
Well, you had the natural talent for it.
Well,
so those two guys, the mill boss and your principal, did you a big favor.
Yeah, and I never talk about those things, and it's, when you look back over your life, you look at what I'll call the stops. If you pull this stop out of that stop and you don't make that stop and you don't make that connection, there's no telling. You see? Life's a funny thing, and life is always like I'm in the Army and I've got a wife and a kid on private pay. What am I going to do, right? But then I write a song called That's All You Got to Do, and Brenda Lee records it. And the other side is I'm Sorry went to #1, That's All You Got to Do went to #5. So I'm in the Army, and it just saves my life. And little things, you see, come along and fall into your life. It's such critical times. You don't know what you're going to do, and you don't know why God or life or whatever it is that sends those things into your life keeps everything straight, running straight. Boy, you'll get over the edge, you'll start to go off, but then something will happen.
So it must have been one of those stops that kind of led you into the movies.
Well,
or was it Burt Reynolds?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Burt. No, it was a friend that I had because of the Glenn Campbell show. See, when I was doing the Campbell show, Howard West was an officer there, an agent there, and he was very closely affiliated with a Good Time Hour, and we'd talk and chat, and I told Howard that I'd like sometime or another to maybe try to do a picture because I always wanted to do one or do something in one. Something I felt like I wanted to do. And so one day he called me about in 1974. This is after the Good Time Hour's gone. I think 73, something like that. And he said, Jerry, they're doing a movie down there with Burt Reynolds called WW and the Dixie Dance Kings, right? And he said, you mentioned you'd like to do a picture. Why don't you go over and read for John Avildsen, the director? So I went over and read and got the part of the band leader, Wayne, in the picture. And that's how I met Burt. And then from there, it was Burt. Burt called me for Gator. And boy, my brains fell out when he asked me to play a heavy. Are you kidding me? He's doing Lucky Lady down in Guaymas, Mexico, and he calls me to come down there. So I go down there. I thought he's going to ask me to write a song or something for the movie. And we talked about that, and then he hit me with doing the heavy.
I saw both Bandits, and I like #1 better, but I thought
sure you did.
One of the funniest parts in there, and one of the most natural parts, is when you get the beer truck, truck all loaded with beer, and you're standing there trying to, spell that guy's name?
Yeah.
And you said, oh, to hell with it, let's go. To leave him an IOU. Yeah. That had to be one of the most natural, funny parts in the whole movie.
Well, I can't tell you, Walt, what having Burt Reynolds in your corner means in the picture world, because you're talking about a foreign industry to me. That's like a foreign substance. I don't know anything about the motion picture business. He had to stop me every once in a while and said, Reed, you can't jump up and down and move like that. And I'd say, why? He'd say, well, get over on the other side of the camera and look through the lens. I'm going to show you how you're going to look on the screen. So I'd put my eye down there in the camera, and he'd say, you see how this looks? I said, oh, that's making me sick. Don't do that. It gets my equal. He said, well, that's what it'd be like on the film. See, so he didn't have. I mean, he's a director, so he wants to tell you things like that. But it's the attitude, and it's the gags and the jokes that he lets me have. It's him caring enough to make me look halfway decent.
Now.
Excuse me, I'm going to hit this coffee cup.
Go ahead and hit the coffee, because I see something happening to many recording stars that go to the movies. Suddenly, Chris Christopherson is a good example. One of the best things, or the best thing that he does, is write songs.
That's right. That's true.
He hasn't written a song in about 2 or 3, maybe more years.
But you'll be happy to hear he's getting back into it.
I thought he would.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Is this the type thing that happens to you? You get in the movies, you get all involved, you don't have time, and so suddenly the music business is nickels and dimes and...
Well, maybe that's something you have to come to grips with. I know in my case I did, and I'm sure that Chris has come to grips with the same thing, because your first love will always be your richest and deepest. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, what are you doing? Have you left the record business, Reed? Or you really? Because, like we were talking about earlier, producing being a career, well, music is a lifetime of work. It's a lifetime of study, of caring, and administering what God sends you here with to your brothers and sisters to where it makes sense. Otherwise, you don't make it in the industry. I don't care how much talent you got. If you don't have the desire to really reach across those footlights and make your music touch and move the spirit of brothers and sisters. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I think pictures have a tendency, well, I know they do, because it's just like music. I watch Bird, and it's 25 years of study and practice, just like music and guitar is to me. So at some point you have to line your ducks. You have to really get them all aligned and in a straight row. Otherwise, you're just going off like firecrackers, And I think maybe Chris might have thought and said, "Hey, well, gosh, pictures. I can do pictures, But then when you get in there and do them, when you really get totally away from your music, which pictures will make you do, because it's really hard work, hard, long hours. I think, I know it did me. It rattled my cage real bad. It wasn't long till I was taking my guitar on a set, and in between shots, I'm sitting in there working on my chops. And you can see it in my scenes. I'm not an actor. I'm not a polished, gifted actor. I'm just a reactor who likes to clown around and have fun. And pictures will always be nothing but fun to me. I'm dead serious when I'm doing them, because I care about the people I work for. I really care about Burt Reynolds' name, and when I'm associated with him, I'm going to work very hard. But everybody in the world has to realize that I do now know where my long suit is, and it's playing that guitar, fronting my band, playing my concept of music, really hard. I mean, dedicated hard. I can't tell you how many hours in the last 3 years that I've sat over that guitar studying theory, and I've gone to a straight pick now, and I've got a 3-guitar band where we play parts, and they're not easy parts. This, I know now, is what my real calling is all about in this lifetime, because this is where I have the most success. Of course, you'll have to come and see one of our shows, Walter, to understand what I'm talking about. But I guarantee you, when you come see me and my band, and my band is a show all in themselves, because I really let them show.
What's the name of them?
I call them the Thompson Station Congregation.
Thompson Station Congregation.
Thompson Station Congregation Band, and I mean, there's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of testimony. Matter of fact, it's more like a revival in an old prayer meeting, or an old. You ever go to any of them all day dinners and singing them all day singings and dinners on the ground back when you was a kid?
Yeah, singing.
Well, that's the atmosphere I try to get into, is where we don't come there as nobody's a star. It's just this man is running the ceremonies, and that's me. But, the bottom line, if you take all our clothes off and line us up against the wall, we all look like brothers and sisters, which is truly what we really are. You understand? So when you go there with that atmosphere, that attitude, the atmosphere around the concert stage changes altogether. all of a sudden, everybody in the building, in their minds and their hearts, they're right up there on the stage with
Part
you.
of it. I want to ask you about the family.
Oh,
Priscilla?
oh, Pris is doing fine. She's fixing them white beans just right and left, them buttered biscuits and stuff. My daughter Pookie, when we get home, when we get back off the road next week, we're going in. Pete Drake's going to produce some sides on her, and me and the guys are going to go in and play for her.
She came out in just one name she used.
Sedina.
Sedina.
Yeah.
Will she do that again?
Yeah, because it's that kind of name. We were looking at it, putting it down, and
she sang with you on stage for the first time here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I was there and emceed the show.
And she was only, she was about 15, 16.
She was
so
excellent.
That was.
I might tell our fans because I don't know whether you will or not. Priscilla, your wife, had a #1 song one time with Roy Drusky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mr. Peters. Yep. You remember the record?
Sure do.
Yeah, and that was because that's because of people. Jerry Kennedy, who was very close to. See, Pris worked background. She was a background vocal singer in Nashville when we moved up. She worked a lot with the Jordanaires until she eventually, when Anita Kerr left and went to the West Coast, she took Anita's place in the Kerr Singers quartet, right? And so Jerry Kennedy needed a girl singer for this song, so he just said, "Hey, Pris, come over and sing this with Roy," and bang, it went to #1.
It went to #1.
Yeah.
Jerry Reed, I want to thank you for being on the countdown. We could talk all day. But they're giving us the cut sign out there.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed it. We'll do it again sometime.
Let's do.
Yes, sir.